Manchester have got a vision of how they want to change their city and how they want to revolutionise their city, not just in terms of technology, energy, ICT or transport, but with the devolution of power more towards the city. We're very proud as Siemens to be partners with the City of Manchester on that journey. So I just want to talk a little bit about the Triangulum project, which is a Horizon 2020 Lighthouse project, smart city project. It was first thought about around about this time last year, I think, January. Bid went in May, and now we've moved forward to delivery. As Steve said, we had the great and the good from Stavanger, Leipzig, various other European cities in Manchester a couple of weeks ago, just to really kick off the project. So what are we doing? The project from a Siemens perspective is worth around €6 million, although the total project value for Manchester itself is nearer 9 or 10. And we're looking to transform the Manchester corridor. Has anyone been to the Oxford Road corridor in Manchester? Does everyone know where I'm talking about? If you've been to Manchester and nearly been hit by a bus, then that's the right road. It's got the most number of buses on the road, I think, is it in the world or Europe? In Europe. So the Oxford Road corridor has got 2 universities, it's got the city centre down at one end and the hospital down at the other end. We're looking to develop that corridor into a smart quarter and linking in with some of the redevelopments of those institutions which is going on already. Steve said we won't talk about technology. I, coming from a technology company, will talk about technology a little bit. We're looking to create an energy management infrastructure which connects all the assets within the Oxford Road corridor, or many of them, to see whether we can create a new type of energy system. And it was really interesting listening to the speeches before the coffee, particularly the Orkney project, which I'm very familiar with. It's a really interesting idea to take some of those concepts, connected assets, active network management, and see if we can map them into an urban context. So, Triangulum by numbers. One Oxford Road, I've mentioned the Oxford Road. There's £80 billion of Horizon 2020 funding being made available from the EU between now and 2020. 80 billion worth of funding in various areas, including smart cities, including healthcare, a number of different calls. If you are a city or a local authority and you are not looking at it, then you should be looking at it, because there's a number of different pots of research and development money that are available to make improvements in your cities or districts or local areas. When we bid, there were 19 bids last May, and we were one of only 3 that was successful. We're anticipating the next call when it goes in May to be a lot more oversubscribed. This was the first one. I think it's fair to say, and Steve will agree with me, that this was kind of like FP7, but different from FP7. So it's been quite a journey in order to get ourselves to the point where we're actually going to be looking at project delivery. And the total Triangulum project is worth €28 million across 3 cities. So the lead cities, are Manchester, Eindhoven and Stavanger. Also important is the fact that we've got 3 follower cities, Prague, Sabadell and Leipzig. These projects, you have to have 3 core cities from different EU countries, and you need to have follower cities who are going to take the learning from each of those lead cities and implement it in their own districts and neighbourhoods. We've got 3 work streams. Siemens are looking after the energy work stream, but there's also a mobility work stream and an ICT work stream. Mobility is being managed by the council, and ICT is being looked after by the University of Manchester. Core partners working with the City Council and the 2 universities. Steve mentioned learning, being a learning city. It's really, really important that the universities are involved, because as we step forward into a new world, as we step forward into, let's call it a smarter city or whatever we want to call it, or a new type of energy system, we need those clever people in universities to help us out. And the thing that binds the 3 work streams together is a data platform called the MCRI. Now, data platforms aren't new. Every conversation you have about a smart city is all about open data and open data platforms. Indeed, Glasgow have got one already. But we'll be looking to implement that with partners across Manchester. And the idea there is to take that data, make it open it up to developers, and allow people to come up with innovative new applications based around the energy, the mobility, and the ICT. A stat for you, which I always like to quote, and if you've heard it from me before, then please ignore me now. When Transport for London made their TfL data open source, within the first year, there were between 350 and 400 applications created. I don't know if you go to London, but there's an app there called City Mapper, which essentially brings all the bus timetables, all the train timetables together and helps you get around the city. Best app I've got on my iPhone. Okay, so in terms of the structure of the project and the partners, the European Commission is there at the top, and the lead organisation here was a Fraunhofer in Stuttgart. One of the most important learnings from our perspective is you have to have someone to lead across the whole of the 3 cities and follower cities. Make no bones about it, it's very complex to get this over the line. Even just to bid it with those number of stakeholders is very, very complicated. And as you can see across the bottom, these are our Manchester partners. Steve and Manchester City Council are leading the project. We're working with OSIsoft for the platform, Clicks and Links, who are a really innovative Mancunian SME. I would advise you to look those guys up. They're doing some great stuff around visualization. Both universities and also ourselves as Siemens. So this is a 5-year project. We've just kicked off. We have a technical implementation report to deliver in November, which will essentially nail down what the requirements are and how we are going to implement the project. Then we'll do a number of use cases and try and figure out some new learning from that. So in the context of a smart city, what is a smart city? 100 different things to 100 different people. We have a very simple view of it. A number of services which power the city. Water, waste, communications, transport and energy. And in terms of energy, we're not just talking about electricity and gas. One of the things in this project that's going to be very interesting is looking at the relationship between electricity, gas and also heat. We're connecting to a couple of heat networks. We're connecting to CHP. We're going to look at how the energy system, whole system thinking, which was mentioned earlier, how we can define those relationships between heat and energy. We're also going to have a look at the effect of these things on the energy system. Weather, very, very important. What are the markets doing? What is the demand? We've deliberately stayed away from connecting to domestic properties and looking at the supply side of the energy system because we purely want to look at the other side of it, so the generation assets. Can the city be self-sustainable? Are there additional revenue streams available from the various markets which are there, which you can play in? We're also going to look at the greenhouse gas emissions. One of the key drivers for this project is to reduce the CO2 on the Oxford Road corridor. Whether that means the adoption of electric buses or further electric vehicles, whether that means different way of distributing deliveries within the city to the universities. The idea is to reduce the amount of traffic or manage better the amount of traffic which is going up that corridor. One of the interesting things for me is how can you link your transport fleet to some of this localised generation, some of this renewable generation. So your transport fleet is not only being run on electricity, it's clean electricity. And ultimately all this has to balance. So here is just a picture of an urban energy system. The good news is that every city and every district has energy assets. Hospitals have CHP. Supermarkets have backup generation. There's solar PV on people's roofs, on buildings, industrial. There are a number of energy assets which are currently not connected. One of the things that we're looking to do with this project is to see whether a connection of these localised energy assets, already grid connected, can help make the city self-sustainable. Ideally, and I don't think we'll get there yet, I'd like to be able to take a district off-grid. Now, I think that's 5 to 10 years away, but the technology, the microgrid technology, Siemens already has that in place in the University of Genoa on the Savona campus. So already we have a project there where we have localized generation connected in a virtual power plant with associated electric vehicles. If you want any further information on that, then give us a shout on the stand. But if you have a look around the different types of assets that are there, one of the most important things from the perspective of a city is, do you know what's there? There's an energy asset audit which needs to be done around all these generation assets. Because there's value there, there's revenue streams there, there's the ability to make your city cleaner. In terms of what we're actually going to connect, we're going to connect around 5 megawatts of distributed generation down the Oxford Road corridor. And I had to put my list here. So this is looking around PV arrays. We're going to connect 10 fuel cells. We're going to connect up with CHP, around 3 megawatts of CHP. Once the platform's in, we want to connect up everything else too. One of the interesting things for us is we'll have around 5 megawatts across 30 assets. We're also going to connect to the buildings and the building management systems. There's inherent flexibility in buildings. We're already doing a trial here with Glasgow City Council around connecting up city council buildings to find out if there's flexibility and demand response assets in there. That's with Scottish Power. For the University of Manchester, one of the interesting things is they said, don't touch our assets. Facilities guys say that, right? But what they are going to do is they're going to give us access to their building management system, which is already connected to their assets. It's really, really interesting, the data that we're going to get out of this project. Now, in terms of the first stages of that, we're going to build a model. We're going to make the connections and we're going to build a model. We have a set of use cases which we will look at market opportunities. And what we're trying to achieve. We've talked already about the MCRI platform, working with the partners to create an urban virtual power plant. Siemens have done that before. We've done it in Munich. But the virtual power plant that we created in Munich was with 10 megawatt energy from waste plants, 5 megawatt hydro, huge, huge plants. First question I asked when I walked into Siemens was, have you got any small stuff that we can connect? What we're trying to do is, rather than connect 5 assets, we want to connect 50, 500 assets. If you believe in the Internet of Things and you believe in connectivity of smart cities and controllable connected assets, that is the future. Irrespective of the regulatory regime that we currently find ourselves in, there is an opportunity for cities to be self-sustainable in terms of their energy by connecting the assets that they've got already. One of the interesting things around the virtual power plant as well, traditionally, a collection of generation assets would be owned by one energy company. What we're going to investigate here is, how can you create an energy system that has multiple owners, multi-tenant, 2 universities, city council, whoever else wants to be part of that. In terms of the natural evolution of the energy system, as we move towards more distributed generation, this is critical. The current regulatory regime does not allow us to settle with multi-tenant. It certainly doesn't allow us to settle every half hour, which we need to do in order to offer better tariffs to some of our customers. Talked about the mix of different generation assets. Each of those assets will have different properties and different parameters. For my sins, I deregulated the retail market and the wholesale electricity market. I understand how the balancing mechanism works. I understand how the wholesale market and national grid works. In a larger scale, we already have the concept of single balancing mechanism units, connected trading units. But this is big stuff. What we're looking to do here and what makes this project so innovative is we want to drop down 2 levels of granularity. We want to see whether we can create an aggregation on aggregation model. And data and communications empower that. So I know I'm running short of time. I've mentioned connecting to building management systems. Critical will be the relationship between energy and heat and how we do that. I'm being waved at, so I'm going to stop. What are we going to employ ourselves? Decentralized energy management system, virtual power plant. We're also going to put a battery in there as well. The University of Manchester have also got a C-storage battery in there that we're going to look to see if there's commercial opportunity with that. Very similar to the guys have already done on Orkney. We're going to look at network topology and how we manage that distributed generation kind of portfolio. And that's it from me. I was scared I was getting waved at. Please come and find me at lunchtime if you want to talk about the project. Some of the guys are on the Siemens stand. I absolutely, fundamentally believe that a move towards decentralized generation to complement the existing energy system is something which is going to really accelerate over the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you very much.